What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Baseball Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It's the offseason, but we're still rolling. Got scrimmages starting. A lot of exciting things happening. A little bit of turnover with the staff and a little bit of turnover with our staff. We're not losing anybody, but we are adding someone to our team, Sebastian Font, who you guys are going to love. Great insight into the baseball team. Former walk-on, played here at Palmetto, now a student at University of Miami. Really excited about his addition and his insight into this program. We're going to be bringing you a ton of great content over the season. First, a word from some of the best friends that Canes baseball has.
This episode of the CanesInSight podcast is brought to you by our friends at Sala Astorita & Cox, a boutique law firm focusing on securities regulatory matters, broker-dealer and investment advisor regulation, white-collar criminal defense, complex commercial litigation, and securities arbitration and litigation. The firm aggressively represents clients throughout the nation. Contact them now at 561-989-9080 or visit them online at salalaw.com.
All right, without further ado, excited to introduce you to the newest member of our team. He just wrote an article that you can read on CanesInsight.com, getting to know the transfer class. He's doing a ton of work for us, and he is going to be focused on everything, but really giving you some insight on the Canes baseball program that he is very familiar with. So without further ado, let me introduce Sebastian Font. Sebastian, how you doing?
Doing great, D-Money. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this. I just want everyone to know that I'm excited to be part of this great community. Obviously, been reading and watching CanesInSight for as long as I can remember growing up down here. And yeah, it's just great to be able to continue my love for baseball, but in a new way. And I'm just excited to be part of it.
So we'll get into the article you wrote talking about some of the transfers that Miami added, which you saw up close and personal, as you'll get into now, and have unique insight onto their skill set. But before we get into the article and the different players, let the CanesInSight community know who you are and your relationship to the program.
Yeah, so I played my 4 years of high school ball at Palmetto, Bit South, and then I was originally going to go to either an Ivy League school for baseball or Villanova, but both those fell through. I eventually wanted to go to UM because most academic money and whatnot, best option for me and my family. And I actually ended up getting an opportunity to be a preferred walk-on as part of the team for the fall. And since the school year started, was part of that. Best time of my life, great family, great program. But I decided I wanted to focus on sports writing, sportscasting. That's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Talked it over with JD and the guys, and they fully supported me in doing this. And yeah, now I'm here. Again, excited to be part of this community.
No, excited to have you because, again, you bring the unique insight. When we talk about these transfers, you're not just talking about them from the Twitter highlight here or there. You've seen these guys up close and personal and some of the things they can do. Obviously, here we're trying to shed light on these student athletes and some of the things that they can do. And, we're excited for the season and what it could be. This is the scrimmages are starting. So this is a time to be excited with all the new faces. It's unusual you get a whole new team pretty much. But aside from a couple guys like Cuvée, Villegas, Nick Robert, Brian Walters, this is really very much a new team. So it requires kind of an extra introduction. We talked about some of these guys. Me and Javi Salas have gone over a few of these, but you know them better than anybody. So you wrote an article for CanesInSight, which you guys can check out on the baseball forum, going over these guys in print. But I figured let's talk about these guys in this format on podcast, and starting with somebody that I'm really excited about. This is actually probably my favorite guy, just as a fan perspective, watching highlights, watching old interviews that this guy did. Very super intrigued to see what he can do for this team, and that's Todd Hudson, the Liberty transfer.
Yeah, so when you first see Todd, obviously the size really stands out. He's a very big guy, very physically present. But I think the most interesting part about him, he's very technical in what he does. You see him in the batting cage, the way he talks about hitting, he's very focused and methodical in what he does. He's very twitchy, as you can see in that clip right there. He tries and gets his hands going and then just explodes through the ball. It's just a powerful swing. And that's something that Miami really needed last year. He was a double-digit home run guy. Last year, only Cuvée was the only guy to hit over 10 home runs last year. That's something we desperately needed. And Huddy is a guy that he could basically play outfield, infield, DH. Like, JD's going to find a spot for this guy. I can guarantee it. And I think something that people don't really know about him, he moves very well for his size. You can see him in the sprints and whatnot. He moves very well. He's an athletic guy, and he just brings that sense of power to the team that we've been really needing.
And, for those who don't know, there's a two-way player at Liberty. So somebody that has not focused on only hitting at all at any point in his career until, right now. I know one thing, just talking to people about Todd Hudson, he had double-digit homers at Liberty, but he might have more power, right, in his body than what he's shown.
For sure.
Just again, you were a center fielder. I mean, again, you kind of undersold your baseball part. Center fielder, one of the fastest guys in Dade County when you played. What are some of the ways, and this can be specific to Todd or in general, that someone like that has the power in their body gets it to the field to improve their power output?
I mean, when it comes to him improving his power output, I think you're going to see it with a lot of the guys, not just him, with Nick Soda. I mean, this guy, I like to think of him as a perfect blend between the old school and the new school. He will push you until you can't anymore, but everything has a specific purpose. It's not just making you throw around weights for the fun of it. Everything has a purpose, and it translates directly to the field. And I think with guys like Huddy, obviously, and a lot of the other guys where they might be a smaller frame, they're not as, obviously Huddy's very big, but he's not fully filled like some other guys. You're going to see an even greater power number from him, and it's going to be incredible to see with the home runs and even stretching out some extra base hits from time to time.
Another guy kind of similar in certain ways, but different direction. And this, Hudson's my favorite position player. This is my favorite, at least from the outside, excited to see. My favorite pitcher is Griffin Hugus, another two-way player, but this guy focusing now exclusively on pitching. Great athlete, great upside, transfer from Cincinnati, right-hander. What do you see from Griffin Hugus?
I think when it comes to Griff, obviously he's very just passionate on the mound. He's someone that's going to go out there and attack every single hitter that he's got. And when you see him in some of these clips right here, he is an absolutely dominating fastball. It just rises out of his hands. If you see him, let's say you go to the scrimmages, see him warm up, you're absolutely going to see the ball just jump out of his hand. If you get the chance to even see him long toss, this man can go full Trevor Bauer style across the field and just absolutely rip the ball. And I think that he's starting to get more of a starter profile. You saw him in the Cape. He got to stretch out his innings a bit, getting up to 5 every now and then. He could really be a guy that fills in this rotation, whether it's weekday starter, weekend starter. He's going to have a role in this team because he can absolutely flat out dominate.
Yeah, and it seems like his fastball it's not just a straight line, right? It's a good movement on this thing.
Rise. Big rise out of the hand. It's honestly one of the biggest jumps from high school to college is with the way the RPMs, the ball goes up. And that's what Hugus has.
And what is someone, I mean, I know you're not a pitcher, but it's interesting to me, the development part of it, because look, they're practicing now, obviously, but the season doesn't start for several months. How does someone like this, again, I know you're not a pitcher, but just how does someone like this develop? Like, what is the process of a player like this developing from, and here we are in early October all the way to opening day?
I think a lot of it goes into just understanding the game on the mound, especially with what pitches you want to throw, what you're comfortable with in certain counts. That's basically what they're going to start focusing on because all of these guys have the tools. They're all crazy athletic. Obviously, Hugus with a two-way background. These guys know how to play. They know how to use their tools to their advantage. And at this point, especially with a guy like Laz, who's very focused on the mind, you're going to see a lot of these guys focus more on how to get hitters out in certain counts, what they like to throw, and how they like to throw it.
I love it. So, another guy that I know you've talked about specifically quite a bit is Derrick Williams from Wichita State, somebody with really quick hands, really, really good power. He's not as big as a guy like Hudson, but certainly he can put the power on in practice. So what do you like about Derrick Williams from Wichita State?
Yeah, when I think about D Will, I think of him. He's just a true gamer. I mean, like you see this guy and you think baseball player. He's very physical in the way that he hits. Quick hands, absolutely launches the ball. This clip right here against Virginia, obviously, it shows that he could do it against ACC competition. We need a guy like that to just absolutely mash the ball. And when it comes to Williams, he could play anywhere on the field, whether it's in the corner outfield or even an infield spot if necessary. They're going to find a spot for him. He could absolutely mash the ball.
Yeah, I mean, defensively with Williams, where you mentioned like, what do you see from him? I know you mentioned a little bit because that's what I'm curious is. I thought he might have been a DH only, but I've heard from people that he has maybe more athleticism than people think. How do you see him shaping up defensively?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's probably going to slot in. We have a very large outfield right now. I think it would either be in the DH or a corner outfield spot. And then again, I think with Nick Soto, you're going to see a much more athletic team this year. And obviously, D Will's been in there with Soto. He's been gaining a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism. He could fully be able to manage a corner outfield spot come springtime.
In general, just we're going through some guys, different ages, but someone like Williams definitely on the older side. What's it been like? What was it like when you were there, just as far as having so many new guys, but older guys with some maturity to them?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the key things about this team this year. Everyone's really bought in. It doesn't matter whether you're the 6th-year senior or the freshman walk-on. Everyone's in there together, talking to each other, looking out for each other. I mean, me personally, D Will was one of my throwing partners in the program every now and then. He's a guy that will take you under his wing, look out for you. Just a really great guy overall.
I know another guy that I've heard a lot of great things about personality-wise, and is someone that I'm excited about his upside. Rob Evans, left-hander from Georgia State, big recruit coming out. What do you like about Rob as a potential starter for this team?
Oh, yeah. I love him as a starter because we do need a lefty arm. We obviously lost Rich to the draft, and just a lefty arm is so needed in the game with a lot of lefty power hitters and whatnot. You need a lefty to be able to just attack them and make them uncomfortable. And Rob is a guy that just absolutely is a dog on the mound, no question about it. He goes out there, he attacks hitters with a great pitch mix. And I think that the best part about his pitches, he's able to adapt them. He told me that he has 2 different types of changeups, and that's, as a hitter, when you have a guy that's got multiple types of the same pitch, it's the worst thing in the world. And he can just flat out dominate when he needs to.
And his energy, right? It seems like it's contagious.
Yeah, completely. I mean, when you see him in the locker room right now, you see him around, you think that this guy's been here all his years, but he's got that much of just a good personality where everyone's having a good time around Rob. Everyone wants to win around Rob. It's infectious.
So another player who I think has gotten a lot of buzz in the offseason, particularly because of his performance in the Northwoods League. Max Galvin, left-hander, originally from IMG. I think he's from Texas originally, right? But somebody who's getting a lot of attention, played at Miami-Dade, I believe, as well. What can you tell me about Max Galvin and what he brings to the table as a hitter?
I mean, I think he's actually the most underrated pickup out of all of them, not just because he was ranked like 3,000th in the transfer rankings, which is absolutely absurd considering when you watch this guy hit, it is straight bombs. This guy, the same thing as Evans, he is absolutely electric. You watch this guy right here, call him bang, absolutely mashes one. He's got confidence, he has swagger, he has all the things that you need in a spark plug top of the order hitter. And I think that he's going to be not only a fan favorite this year just off his energy, but just be one of the fan favorites off of his performance. I think he's absolutely going to kill it this year.
Defensively, how do you see him slotting in?
I see him probably in the corner spot, maybe even to center field. I don't think he's probably fast enough to play center field, but he fully can get the job done if needed to. Takes good routes. Again, high energy guy. He'll make a diving play when needed to. He'll fully be in that outfield somewhere.
One guy that I understand to be pretty uncomfortable if you're going up against him and he's on the mound is Jackson Cleveland. Lamar transfer, great pitching staff out there in Lamar. Comes down to Miami. I don't know if he's a reliever, starter, what he is, but from what I'm hearing, he's got a lot of stuff in his arsenal.
Yeah, he is a guy with. I heard about like when we were doing live ABs and stuff, some guys were joking about having like 8 pitches. And while you think like you might be fearing the guy that could throw the hardest or whatnot, I mean, a lot of the guys were worried about facing him because, again, if you have that many pitches, it's just that much more for a hitter to think about. It is the worst thing to be doing to just think about what type of pitches he's going to throw, where is he going to throw it. When you've got like that many, hitters are uncomfortable. And I think that this guy's really going to stand out, whether it's as a starter or as a reliever, because he will just flat out get outs. And he doesn't walk guys. I think he had under 2 walks per 9 last year. He absolutely just dominates the strike zone and just gets after hitters.
And experience too. It's got to, last year with the bullpen, a lot of guys who were high school starters, coming in there and learning on the job. A lot different when you have a guy that's thrown a lot of innings coming in there in the high leverage. There's a few of these guys that we'll get to, but another guy that I think is going to calm things from a veteran standpoint and really a need on the team. Tanner Smith, catcher from Oregon State. What have you seen from him since he's been here? More importantly, just the importance of having a catcher that's a veteran and someone that can catch the ball consistently and kind of control things.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably our thinnest position. We only have 3 true catchers on the roster, the other 2 being freshmen. And when it comes to Tanner, I would say he's more defensive minded in the sense that not that he's a bad hitter by any shape of the means. He is just that good defensively when it comes to framing. Pitchers love getting the frames by him and throwing guys out. I think Scanlon last year only threw out probably around 20% of the guys that ran. And defensive runs saved is essentially just as good as runs scored. And he's going to be a real big addition to this team.
Is there like a mental component? Because I never played baseball any kind of high level. Is there like a mental component to having a good catcher, maybe different than other positions where it affects the whole team?
Because essentially, in an ideal world, you want your leaders to be up the middle. You want a strong catcher, obviously a pitcher on the mound that's going to go out there and have the energy to dominate, like strike fear in the opposing team. You want a shortstop that's commanding the infield, and you want a center fielder that's going to get any ball imaginable. But when you're in the field, you're always looking at the plate. You're looking at the catcher. If your catcher, you're confident in your catcher, he's throwing guys out, making great, helping your pitcher out. There's nothing better than that as a player on the team, to just have that much faith in your catcher.
So back to the mound here. This one's an interesting one to me, coming from a lower level of competition, but has pitched in the Northwoods, so he has experience with legitimate competition. Carson Fischer, hearing the scouting report on him, sinker ball pitcher, again, big body, kind of that starter projection. What have you seen from him? Do you see him more as a starter or reliever? What have you seen from Carson Fischer?
I see Fish as a definite starter. I would say he's kind of the opposite to Hugus, where Hugus is very up and down, just high velocity, high rise, going at hitters. Fish is more side to side. You see with a sinker that just dives off the plate. He's very side to side in it. He's going to get ground ball outs, and that's what you want out of a starter. You want him to just get through as many guys as quick as possible with the least amount of runs. And I think that obviously he came from a lower level, but I mean, if you look at him, he doesn't look anything out of the. He looks like he fits in there. He's already got a presence in the locker room, and I think that he's going to be a key part of the weekly rotation. For sure.
Let me ask you, I'm not asking you who's better or worse. I'm not going to put you in that position, but just comparing and contrasting. Me from the outside, I see Nick Robert, another big guy who likes to throw sinkers. Not going to throw 95 necessarily, but has that big body. Maybe he has some more juice in there. Just seeing, comparing those two. And again, I'm not asking you to say who's better or worse, but just, is there any differences between them? Are they similar? What are you seeing from comparing a guy like Carson Fischer to a Nick Robert?
I mean, I think that they're very similar in the sense of obviously the sinker ball being a key part of their arsenal. I would say that Robert's probably going to give you more of like a reliever, like high energy, just like absolutely doors when he comes into the game. And Fischer would be just more of a composed starting piece. But I think both of them do a great job of what they get on the mound for. And you're going to have a lot of arms to pick through for this team this year. Do
you sense a sense of healthy competition among the pitchers? I know it's on paper there's a competition, but just being in the room, is that something that you could sense?
For sure. Obviously, I think like across all the positions, especially because it's such a large roster right now. Obviously, there are going to be cuts come springtime, but it's all healthy competition. Everyone's out there just giving it their all, trying to be better. And even I think you might see that the most with the outfielders. There's probably 12 outfielders ranging from guys who are senior year to guys who are just freshmen. It's not really they're all fearing for their spot or whatever. Everyone's just trying to get better. And I think that's the best part about this team right now.
One, I don't say competition, but just an interesting position fit guy, Jake Ogden, originally from Coral Reef, now at UNC Greensboro, or now Miami from UNC Greensboro. Because on paper, you say this guy plays the same position as a guy named Daniel Cuvée, who's pretty good. Don't see him going anywhere. At least he's not going to leave the field. But Ogden's someone with some versatility. How do you think Ogden might be able to fit in? Because just seeing him, I mean, he played in the Cape and did well. Was a Cape All-Star with Cuvée, so you got to imagine he's going to be on here somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, with Augie, he could probably play any position you ask for him. He's that type of guy where he's just going to get after it. Obviously, you see against Wake Forest, the number 1 team in the nation, he goes up there, no fear whatsoever, drives in the winning runs of that game. He's the type of guy that will just be gritty, do everything that he can to win. And I think he hit over 300 last year at UNC Greensboro. He's just a guy that will just find a way to make a play, do anything that he can. I didn't face him when he was at Coral Reef down here, but my teammates did. And he's an athlete, whether it's obviously back in high school on the mound. He just gets after it wherever he is. Whatever's asked of him, he's going to do it.
Do you think it's too much of a stretch to say middle? He could give you innings at middle infield, or you think it's strictly going to be third base, first base kind of for him?
I think he would probably. That's a tough one because obviously we're very thin at the middle infield positions. We still have Dorian returning from last year, but the shortstop position, it's 3 freshmen. And I mean, with Ogden, he could fully play anywhere. He could play anywhere, truly.
Yeah, because that's, again, I'm just trying to figure out who fits where. And you see a guy like Hudson can play first. Cuvée can play either. I wonder, and Ogden, he could play first and third defensively, but you wonder, can he be that true utility guy? Maybe Dorian's second only, and you have freshmen that play shortstop. I don't know. That's in that area to me is something that's going to be interesting to watch here in the scrimmages, because you had a freshman last year, obviously with Jimenez, it didn't work out. Hopefully can get improved production this year, but that's going to be definitely one of the areas to watch. One guy that you mentioned having, just in our conversations, just having great energy, and then you look at the statistical profile, somebody who gave up a lot of home runs last year, but had a lot of swing and miss. Maybe some of those home runs turned into fly balls. You could talking about an upper tier ACC reliever, Will Smith from Coastal Carolina. What are you seeing with Will Smith?
Yeah, he's obviously one of the older guys that came in. He's using his grad years here, but he's a guy that I think just got really unlucky last year in the amount of home runs that he gave up with fly balls. When it came to everything, he held batters to under 200 last year when it came to that, with a great strikeout to walk ratio. I think that his energy on the mound is going to be something that, like Evans, like Hugus, is going to be infectious. And when you need deep runs in tournaments, you want to look to your older guys to come in big spots and absolutely dominate. He's got a great pitch mix, a great slider that he's going to go to when needed. And I think that if he could cut down on some of the home run allowage this year, I think he's going to be absolutely lights out.
Yeah, and of Coastal Carolina, obviously, this guy's not a rookie to the high levels. It's not like he's making that jump from D2 or D3 to Miami. It shouldn't be too much of a jump in that respect. You talk about the outfield, some of the guys we've mentioned already, plus you have Villegas coming back, Mikey Torres, the center field, a lot of high expectations for him. Also, you have Jake Kulikowski, who I understand from talking to you has made a nice little jump in terms of strength and conditioning and just overall a nice lefty swing with him. So there's a lot of people in the mix. One name that you're going to add to the mix is another lefty bat is Bobby Marsh. I think they called him Bobby Barrels in Penn State. So some guy that's got some, he's known for hitting the ball. Lefties produced in the Big Ten. What are you seeing from Bobby Marsh?
Yeah, he's a very composed left-handed hitter in the sense that he's not fazed by either side of pitching. You could go lefty on him. You could go obviously righty lefty on him, and he's just going to stand in there and absolutely find a way to put the ball in play. He's a guy that's just obviously, as I said, very composed, and I think he takes that composure and like Hugus, but in a more composed sense, it's infectious. Everyone can it's a calm sense when you know he's up to bat because he's going to find a way to fight a strikeout and just put the ball in play.
And corner outfield DH for him?
Yeah, I think that's where he profiles for sure.
A lot of lefties, by the way, which again, I think that's the way you want to go with all the right-handed pitching you're seeing in the college game with guys that are throwing those sliders, away from the right-handed hitters. What's your take overall on just the amount of lefties now that you have in the lineup? I know you haven't seen the full lineup in action, but it seems like it's an inordinate amount of lefties.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really good for just, especially obviously you want parking lot shots. You're gonna have a lot of those this year, but when it comes to, you're able to balance out the lineup a lot because obviously you got Cuvée, you got Williams, you got just a lot of big power righty guys, and now you balance it out with some of these lefties that are coming in from the portal, and you could get a really balanced lineup essentially. And then late in games when you're bringing in righty relievers almost every inning, you have a bench full of lefties that can absolutely mash the ball. It's such an underrated aspect of the game, having those guys off the bench that can just be a spark when needed.
Yeah, one of the most statistically impressive guys that was brought in is Alex Giroux out of Hawaii. And he's an interesting one because you look at his stats, I mean, unbelievable stats at Division I level. I don't think, from what I understand, he's necessarily throwing, 96, 97 like a Brian Walters or a Latch Calero, but you can't argue with the strike throwing and the stats that he's put up at Hawaii. What have you seen from Alex Giroux?
Yeah, he's obviously another guy that's just, again, you want guys that are going to attack hitters, and I think that's what the staff this year really focused on when going into the transfer portal. They really wanted guys that are just going to go out and attack hitters. You don't need to overpower them, just attack them. And I think that with a guy like Giroux, he ended the season with a sub-1 ERA, I think even a sub 0.5 ERA towards the end of the season because he was just attacking hitters constantly. And you see him walking off the mound. He's just a confident guy. He knows what type of stuff he has. He's confident in what he has. And when you're a pitcher that's confident, you're going to go out there and dominate.
Yeah, again, I think something that was needed. Let me ask you, he's another one. He's competing for a starting job, right? That's sort of his mentality. I know he can do both, but is he someone that's being slated to the bullpen, or is it a situation where he's going to compete to start and see where it ends up?
Yeah, I think everyone's going to be competing to start, as you say. But I see him more as a bullpen guy just because of that energy that he brings. And I think he played that role at Hawaii last year. Every now and then he would come in and close, and I think that's where he's found success, and I think we stick to that.
This is a name that I thought I knew the people that were in the portal, but this was a new name for me that you brought up, which is Jake Dorne. No relation to Roger Dorne if you watch Major League, but this guy's, man, 6'5", 230, Tommy John kid. What's the story with this guy? Because I really know nothing about him other than what you've told me.
Yeah, so obviously another lefty that we really need in this day and age. He profiles a bit different to Evans, obviously due to his larger size, but he missed the entirety of last season with Tommy John at Lake Sumter. Originally from Cooper City High School, but he's a guy that can just go out there and just explode the ball through the zone. He's rehabbing from Tommy John. He's back to 100%. He's competing every day, day in, day out, and I think when it comes to him, he's very over the top. He's very downhill, and it just explodes through the zone. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see. Obviously, a lot of guys that come back from Tommy John, they actually end up throwing harder. And if you got a hard-throwing lefty, I mean, you can't ask for much more.
Another hard thrower from a different side, and another big dude, Reese Lumpkin, out of Winthrop. This is another guy who's had a lot of reps as a starter, but he's got a lot of size to him. Winthrop did have a couple. I think another guy he played with got drafted this year. So they've had some guys, but I'm just really impressed with his, with his size. And I know he's posted videos of his velo throwing 95. Obviously, throwing 95 in the velo practice different than throw it in the game and throwing strikes and locating. But seems like a guy with some physical tools.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you look at him, he's probably just as big as a Huddy. And obviously he's been in the tread facility. That's where a lot of these guys go to get velo, spin rate. And I think that with a guy with that type of size and that type of velocity, it's an uncomfortable at bat because you feel like he's right on top of you. He obviously has a presence on the mound. He's going to look in there, try to attack. And I think that if he just dials it into the strike zone, he struggled with walks last year. If you could just dial into that strike zone, I mean, he's going to be such a big addition.
So overall, we're going to bring you on a lot. You're going to be part of this team as we go through the scrimmages and get ready. Got a lot of time here with a few months before the season to really understand what this team's looking like. But just your big impression of the culture, which people say, oh, well, this is a team that lost last year. I mean, this is a whole new team, whole new culture, whole new group of guys, really. What was your impression just of the group of guys in general?
Yeah, I feel like something that we really missed a lot last year. It didn't really feel like a team sometimes. It kind of just felt like Cuvée as a freshman just doing everything. And I think that this year, obviously, you're going to see Cuvée step into more of a leadership role his second year. He's not just the rising star. He's the star of the team. He's going to be a leader. You have B-Walt, obviously, and Dorian. These guys are going to be leaders on this team. And now you mix them in with a very young freshman class that probably will be competing. A lot of these guys will be competing for a starting spot. And then again, mix it in with some of these transfer guys that are just, these guys love baseball. They're all about family. And I think that this year, especially, you're going to see a very just together team. This team's going to be together. And if you want to make a deep run, you need a team that's going to be together, gets hot at the right time, and fully believes in what they're doing.
Well, listen, it's going to be a lot of fun covering this team. Excited to have you on our team. Sebastian Font going to be bringing a ton of coverage and insight all the way through the season, football and baseball, not just baseball, football as well. But baseball is going to be a lot of fun, really digging in and giving people more coverage than they probably ever seen on the baseball team in the months to come. Again, Sebastian, welcome and appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for this.